there is nothing so practical as a good theory. I have always enjoyed thinking and reading and teaching. Teaching is really the essence of who I am. So if you want to really be a good reviewer, the first thing is we need to be very constructive in our feedback. The second is I think we should be empathetic when we write reviews. The third is we should be very specific. For a good researcher, I have 5 good rules that I have framed so far for myself.
Hello and welcome to Inkpot Hub Media. My name is Shikha Jain and I'm back with one more inspiring story of an award-winning entrepreneurship educator. At Inkpot Hub Media, we enrich and celebrate a researcher's journey by sharing their experiences with you all. If you like the video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our channel. Our guest today is an extremely talented scholar. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Dr. Raj Shankar, who is a postdoctoral fellow at Nord University, Norway. He has received his PhD from Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. Dr. Raj has authored many books, cases, book chapters, and has also won many Best Paper and Best Reviewer awards. Dr. Raj Shankar is a reviewer at top journals of management and entrepreneurship. The list is very long. So let's hear this story from Dr. Raj Shankar himself.
So begin with, Dr. Raj, you are a researcher, an entrepreneur and a blogger. How all this evolved? Can you please share your experience with us?
Okay. I have always enjoyed thinking and reading and teaching. I don't know, I think I had very good teachers when I was in the early part of my life. So I think for me, teaching was like the job to do. And so I've always been very enamored by this profession. I always wanted to be a professor. Okay. Even during my engineering days, so I jumped at thinking that maybe I should become a professor of computer science or something. But then I realized very early that I had this inherent interest to understand organizations. Okay. I kept always asking questions about it. I used to read books about it, even though I was doing engineering. So when I took my first couple of jobs, I realized that more than the technical aspects of building an operating system or writing an algorithm, I was actually quite curious about how the economics of an enterprise, the organizing behind the enterprise was taking place. So I still remember I used to think so much about the business models of e-commerce startups, and I was stumped actually to know that they didn't have any revenue at all and they were still growing. So I didn't understand what was growth at that time. So it was a lot of fun and interest for me to know more about it. So it was not surprising that I moved to do an MBA, and after an MBA I thought I should work with organizations. So I took consulting as a kind of a career. So I moved into consulting, and then very soon I realized I'm really working only with large organizations doing kind of alignment, technology alignment, strategy alignment kind of projects. But when I spoke to my friends who were running small enterprises, who were entrepreneurs of themselves, we always heard the stories of their difficulties and they wouldn't get help. So that's how I got started trying to start an enterprise which will work with these entrepreneurs, with these small businesses, and help them with kind of growth strategies, organizing within the enterprise and institutionalizing good practices. So that's how it started, and I ran this for several years along with a bunch of really nice people. And I think every time we all chat nowadays, we still talk about those years together trying to run a little company. I think it's just so fun. So that's how I think I ended up gaining some experience as an entrepreneur running a firm. But I think most of my experience about this comes from actually working with a lot of good entrepreneurs and small businesses, very good small businesses, and the interactions on the field. I think it taught me a lot. I think around 2007-8, I started teaching formally in the subject of entrepreneurship. So initially it was at one college, and then of course there are many institutions I taught. So I think that's how all these three started. And blogging, I think, really started during my entrepreneur days, because we used to do so many meetings and so many engagements, and then we never captured anything. So I said, okay, why not? And then blogging was really kind of catching up at that time. So I said, okay, let's start something and at least start it off. So that's where I started writing, and I also began to enjoy that. I kind of enjoy writing. I can write fast, and I like to think. And it also was a great win for my reading of books. So I could share what I read and have discussions with people about what they thought about things. And so, so that's how I think these three kind of emerged over time.
You have also mentioned a lot of things about teaching styles and, everyday post about books on entrepreneurship or your experiences. So it's a very, very interesting blog. I have also read it and I really liked it.
Thank you. I am so glad you do.
Thanks. You have been awarded Entrepreneurship Educator Champion by Government of India in back 2015. So now when you look back, how do you connect those dots?
So I'll pick up where I stopped about the blog. I think that's a good way to kind of help me move forward. So initially it was just capturing anecdotal experiences. I used to write about stuff I read and my and what I heard from good practitioners. So I actually had the name of my blog, Perspectives of an Entrepreneur. That's how it started. And then over some time, I realized that, we were trying to abstract concepts, models out of whatever we knew, whatever we were doing. Mm-hmm. And then eventually we tried to kind of write some books, which students and also practitioners could use to run their enterprises. Mm-hmm. And then this effort, I think, kind of moved into kind of developing prescriptive tools, usable tools, frameworks for entrepreneurs and small business owners. And then sometime when we were doing this, we were also kind of thinking maybe this can be done more scientifically. And that's when I got engaged with the scientific literature on entrepreneurship. Okay. And then I realized I was reading a lot of good stuff in the top management and entrepreneurship journals, though not always from India, but in many other contexts from India. And sometimes they look like some of these were also happening here. And I thought maybe we could use this as a great opportunity to move into that. And I also thought that was a good way for me to, eventually become a teacher, because when I was running the business, I also realized, as I have always done, that I think teaching is really the essence of who I am. So as a person, so I thought, somewhere down the line, I think I took a very circuitous route to becoming a faculty. And I also started working with the National Entrepreneurship Network from the Wadhwani Foundation. They were doing a lot of on the ground work on developing ecosystems in universities and stuff like that. So I started doing courses for them, and then I got certified, and then they wanted me to be a master trainer. So I started doing faculty development programs. And then I used to do a lot of mentor development programs. So I kind of helped design a lot of these programs with them during their initial days. So I think about 5 to 8 years of, really traveling India, teaching in the remotest of colleges and spending time with kids who had so much aspiration. And so it was I think it was very encouraging for me. And I think it was also developmental. So I ended up realizing that, I think we need to make more strong contributions to this topic for entrepreneurship. And this needs to be done in a more organized way. So that's when in 2014, actually, when I heard that the Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India started the first kind of FPM program in entrepreneurship, I said, okay, I used to teach at Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. Before that, I have gone there several times to teach. So when I came to know that, they were starting this program, I thought, this is a great opportunity for me to become a student again and maybe try my hands at doing some research. And that's how I joined there. And after being a year, I think, about a year or so as a kind of doctoral student after many years, I was surprised when I got this nomination for this award, and then I actually won it. And then I was like, wow, this is very interesting. So when I look back, I'm realizing that this extensive engagement with entrepreneurs, with students across the country. I mean, I've been to towns and places that I never knew existed. So it's like really different parts of India and also several places outside India. And therefore, that I think helped me shape my research questions today. So when I start a research project with my own work or with doctoral students I supervise, I always ask them to go and talk to some entrepreneurs, to some business owners, and ask, is this really something, does this question matter to you? Because otherwise why research? And just not for the sake of generating knowledge, but for the sake of generating high quality knowledge, which is also very useful. So I think this more than this award, I think it was more like this acknowledgement that working so much on the field can be very helpful to a scholar. So I always urge my scholars, and even today I try to, if I get an opportunity to talk to a practitioner, I always do. I don't miss it. So I think that's how I would connect it, that it kind of helps me shape my research and make it more impactful, useful to people.
So you are an entrepreneur as well. So how different it is in real life? I mean.
Yeah. So I hear a lot of entrepreneurs tell me, theories are not useful. I have now decided that, I am done with my entrepreneur career. Now I want to be like a complete teacher. So I'm trying to transition into being a full-fledged academic. But I, as I said, I always keep my one foot in the practice world, because that's where you really understand the real challenges.
True.
And I think that is the real inspiration for a good scholar. And many of these people, when I talk to them, they tell me, I don't read any of what you write in journals, and I've never heard of these journals. And so I always tell them, we don't write in the journals for you. We write in the journals for our peers who are also researching, and then they will read it. It's okay. But then we will also take effort to translate some of this research by writing in places like, magazines, journals, maybe places like Harvard Business Review of sorts, to help you reach that knowledge as well. So the ultimate goal is to make it available to you. There is no, as I think Andrew Van Deven is credited with this famous quote, or I don't know who. It says, there is nothing so practical as a good theory.
Wow.
So I kind of go back and tell them that, doing research and making it practical. And as an entrepreneur, I realized that it was useful. And now I work very hard to tell my students and my entrepreneur friends that it's very important to kind of absorb and learn good theories. Theories are like tools. So they help you see the world better. They help you handle and make decisions better. So
So Raj, recently in annual conference of Academy of Management, you have been awarded as the best reviewer in the category of entrepreneurship division. So it's such a big achievement. When did you start reviewing the journals, and we want to understand whether it is an art or a science?
That's a nice question. I started reviewing actually when I think maybe in the second year of my FPM PhD program. It started because the institute had a journal, and the editor actually used to encourage young scholars to review for the journal. So I said, why not take it up and read some papers? Anyway, I love to read, so I said that will be nice. But and then I realized I can't really comment on how to develop it better. I can only read. So I spent a lot of effort trying to read very good editorials written in top journals like NJ, MR. They have a lot of editorials that actually teach you how to do good reviews. So I think I spent a lot of time trying to read books about it, and then I started doing this. And then I went to the Babson conference, I think in 2016. That was the first time I went to the Babson conference, which is like a big conference in entrepreneurship research. So when I went there, I met a lot of editors, and I found it surprising that when I asked them, okay, when should I actually try to be a reviewer in a journal? They said, right now. I mean, I was like, wow, you think I can review? And then they were like, I mean, that's okay. I mean, because we always have more than one reviewer on a paper, so a junior reviewer is okay because it's a way for you to kind of get into the profession. So I enrolled myself into top journals like Journal of Business Venturing, Entrepreneurship Theory and Practice, and I started reviewing for them. And the best part of that is when the editor sends out the decision letter, you get a copy of all the reviewers' comments and the editor's comments and how the editor made a decision. So it's a great learning. So when I sit back with that, I used to spend a lot of time reading how the other reviewers who were, I'm sure, senior to me, how did they approach the review and what can I learn from that? So I think doing this several times over has helped me become better. And I have come to realize that it's not really art or science. I think it's more like a skill. So I would rather think it's a skill and it can be developed through deliberate practice. So I think it's important to just practice, read, and do it. So when we spend more time doing it, I think we get better. And so, yeah, the way I thought about it also, or I was told by my seniors, is that it is important for a scholar to do reviews, because that's also one of the aspects that really makes you a rounded scholar. It's not just writing papers. I mean, it's not just putting your name on every paper that matters. It's about how did you contribute to knowledge development by giving feedback. And so I thought that was a very important thing. So I have taken up every review that's come my way. I find time somehow to read and give comments, and I think I've learned a lot through that process. So my personal belief is that it's a skill. It can be learned and it can be honed through practice.
And I also want to know, what are the challenges a reviewer faces?
I don't know. I think this little bit when I was doing reviews, how should I develop myself and what are my main challenges in becoming a better reviewer? I think the first thing is the reviewer faces is lack of knowledge.
Okay.
I think one of the things that a lot of scholars, I mean, I think you've heard this and from everybody, is that reading is reducing day by day and people aren't reading enough.
Actually.
So I think reading journal articles is very, very important. So being abreast of what's happening in the field is critical for a good scholar to remain a good scholar. So if we don't read widely, then it also limits how much you can actually help by giving comments, because sometimes when you
I think this is a big problem with this generation. We don't read a lot.
I think it's been the same with I think all generations. I think when we grow up, numbers are worse than us. But I think, in general, reading has come down because of these distractions that we have. We have so many other alternate, mediums. So I think first challenge that any reviewer faces is staying up to date. So I think we have to read a lot. So that's a big challenge. Second is writing a good review requires time, because you need to really spend time reading the paper, maybe 2-3 times, identifying the flaws, and then making suggestions how to improve them. So maybe you have to also read some other papers. You have to go back and search the literature again to understand things. And so it's a bit of time, I think. And a lot of us prioritize our own work over this, because obviously it's anonymous. You don't get credit for it. So why should I do it? So I think the second big challenge is, are people willing to prioritize this? And second, will spend the time. So I think second big challenge is time. So a lot of people don't have time considering their teaching and their own research. So that's the second. And the third one is, I think it requires really motivation. I think it's like if somebody asks the question, what do I get out of this, and then start this activity, I think it will die very fast, because on the face of it, you don't really get anything out of it, because the process is blind peer review. So obviously nobody knows
who has reviewed.
Yeah. And so I think motivation can die very fast. It can dwindle very fast. So I think the third big challenge is really keeping that motivation going. So it's, I think, prioritization and understanding that it's a big contribution that you make by reviewing, because by helping a good paper get published, you have actually contributed to the development of knowledge. Because every scholar talks about creation of knowledge, but they think that creation of knowledge is just the paper I write. It's not so. I think it's like, there's this big knowledge repository, and what we write is so little actually. So I think we can make a equal or more contribution by reviewing for others. The only thing I think we should be wary about is not to take reviews that we can't do So for example, if it's really outside the scope of what we do, like a quantitative scholar should not try to review a qualitative paper unless they really can, or it's from a topic that you have no idea about, then you can't really be developmental in a way. So yeah.
True.
I think these are the challenges, I think.
What is your message to the fellow researchers who aspire to be like you?
I don't know. Let's think. So one is, if you want to really be a good reviewer, the way I see it is, the first thing is we need to be very developmental, very constructive in our feedback. So not just criticizing papers, but telling how the papers can be made better. So I think being developmental as a reviewer is very important to be a good reviewer. The second is, I think we should be empathetic when we write reviews. So we must assume that we will also get such letters. So I think we should be very careful when we write the letters and not be very harsh and too critical. And I think we should write it to ourselves. The third is we should be very specific. We should highlight aspects of the paper that the author wants to write. So we shouldn't tell this paper can be written this way. That's your paper. So you can write it. But I think it's important to help the author write his or her paper. So I think giving specific and comments along those lines is very important. And I think we have to be punctual. I think a lot of reviewers, I've heard editors say that reviewers sometimes delay reviews, and because of that, the whole process is delayed. So one of the things is to stick to deadlines. So I think these make a good reviewer. For a good researcher, I will share what seniors have told me, because I don't think I have that much experience to tell others what to do. But I have 5 good rules that I have framed so far for myself, which again, it's not mine, it's just told to me by people I've worked with. And I've been very blessed because I worked with some of the best scholars in entrepreneurship and as my co-authors and with whom I'm working even now. And they have taught me a lot. So the few things, I mean, I just try to list 5, but I mean, it can be many, I think. The first is you have to read a lot and read at that level. I mean, read at the level, at the best you can read. I mean, so get to the best journals, read how research is done, and read regularly and read a lot. So that's very, very important. Second, write every day. So I think that's like, it's a big routine to develop. It's tough. But I think just getting up every day and saying that you will write today is a big thing to do. First, you have to get some papers on the paper. True. Words on the paper. Getting words on the paper is the first step. So I think writing every day. And the third thing is to enjoy rewriting, because you never are going to write a paper in one go. So I have this paper in a good journal called the Journal of Business Venturing, which is like an FT50 and of course all these things. But I think the process of getting through that journal, what I learned is that I learned a lot about review from that, because I had good reviewers who gave me very developmental feedback. But I also realized that the paper completely changed from the first submission to the actual publication. And as I rewrote and I enjoyed the rewriting, I realized that I learned so much along the way. So I don't know, I think I have formally at least 40-50 versions of my paper.
Wow.
So it takes a lot of, and if you don't enjoy the process, I think it will not be so much fun. So I think enjoying rewriting is a good thing to develop. The fourth is, I also learned that we should work with good scholars. We should strive to work with good scholars and learn from them. And that's the best way to learn, more than attending workshops and seminars and stuff like that. I think it's important to co-write papers with good scholars, because when you co-work with them, you learn a lot in an informal way. So I think that's a very, very useful thing to do. And the last is, I think, it's very important, is to be honest and transparent. I think in academics and as in any other field, it's a long-term game. I mean, you're not going to just write 2 papers and get away. So it's like you're going to be around for 30-40 years. You're going to write a lot of stuff. You're going to meet the same people again and again. It's a small community. So if we are not honest, I think the news will spread very fast and people will stop working with you. So I think being honest in the sense, in simple things, like if you really want to be a co-author, you should be, I think, open about it. And if you're reusing the same data, tell people you're reusing the same data. If you got an idea from somebody, just acknowledge it. site. I think these kind of simple basic practices,
Mhm.
I think builds reputation, and I think that's the only. And my senior scholars tell me that academics, that's the only thing you guard. You have nothing else anyway. So yeah, keep your reputation. So these I think would be good skills to be a good scholar and make a useful contribution.
Okay. One last question. As you mentioned, you have 40, 50 versions of your paper. And after that, if the paper gets rejected, how to deal with that pressure? Because it happens a lot of times. The bad reviews hurt you a lot.
Yeah. So again, I'm just banking on all the wisdom of the seniors that I have the good fortune of working with. So one of them actually told me that when you get a rejection from a journal, especially after doing reviews, remember two things. One is you've improved the paper considerably, and second, it is like after the improvement, you can always send it to an equally good journal. So it's not like you're out and over. This particular journal thinks it's not good enough, but you always have another equally good journal. So it's like rejection at one journal is like getting an R&R at another journal or something like that.
Wow.
So that's a very positive way of looking at it, I think. So I kind of take it up that way. So I recently had a paper rejected after a review at SMJ, and then we had to rewrite it, and now we have an R&R at another big journal. So so I think it's a fun process.
Thank you so much, Raj. It was such a wonderful story to hear about, and I think it actually reflects your blog, Reflections of an Entrepreneurship Scholar. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the great work you guys do.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.